Hi, this is Derek. My friend is borrowing my camera, so I have like this cartoonish version of me, if that's okay. I'd like to address some of the things that have been brought up in the comments and some messages that you guys sent me. Thanks for watching, by the way, on the how to get the watch and high quality option on your videos. First of all, yes, I have a hairy chest. It is very manly, and I am proud of it. Second of all, I am aware that if you type and FMT equals 18 to the end of the URL, you'll get a higher quality video on just about any video, which is a cool trick, but most people aren't nerdy enough, no offense, to know that. But if you want to reach the largest audience with this and just have them be able to click on the button instead of typing in a bunch of code, then I'd recommend sticking to these settings. Also, I told you that you want the bitrate to be 600 kilobits a second or higher. That's for if you're using an H.264 codec, like X264, which is a free one that you can get for Premiere, and it works on a whole bunch of programs as long as you install it, of course. But for something like DivX and Xvid, I found that it actually ends up being about 900 kilobits a second that you need. So, depending on what you're using, it's a little different. Yeah, so one's 600, one's 900. Actually, I'm going to recommend just set it at 1,000. You'll be fine, and you won't have to worry about any of that. It's kind of hard for me to get into what works and go through every video format known to man. I can't really do that. I'm pretty much sticking to what I know works, so you'll have to forgive me with that. Here's one I know doesn't work. I've never gotten a flash video to get the watch and high quality option, so don't do that one. Another thing I found is that you want to have 24 frames a second or higher. That seems to be about the cutoff point. And yes, nerds, you can do 23.976 frames a second. That's close enough, and that'll work too. Now, for those of you that are saying, hey, my video isn't high quality, what's wrong? Well, I'm going to kind of help you to diagnose this. And first, what you want to do is get a program called Media Info, which will give you a whole bunch of useful, detailed information. And once it's installed, you can right-click on your video and just click Media Info, and that'll bring up this window here, and it gives you all kinds of useful stuff. First of all, overall bitrate isn't quite as important. You want to be looking here under the video bitrate, and here's something I want you to notice on this video that I encoded, is that I set it at 1,000, but you'll notice that the actual bitrate here ended up being like 79 kilobits a second. And the reason is it was a still image. So for those of you that are doing like screen captures where it's basically staying still but just the mouse pointer is moving around, or if you're uploading music and you just want to have a still image on there because the video isn't important, what'll happen is you set it at 1,000. That means that's the maximum, but it could be less. And when you have a very efficient encoder like X264, it'll lower the file size a lot because there's not really any motion. It says, okay, here's a still image. Stay, 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 stay that way. Stay, don't change, don't change. And it doesn't take a lot of information to do that. So the file size ends up being smaller. By the way, quickly, you'll also want to make sure it's 480 by 360 or higher. That's another thing. But how do we fix this? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring up Virtual Dub here, and we're going to drag in our movie. And you don't have to use Virtual Dub, by the way. I mean, if you're using Premiere or Vegas or something like that, what you want to look for is, as you encode your video and go through all the settings and stuff, you'll want to look for this configure thing, which will bring up a window that looks like this. I'm going to load up the defaults, so we're all working from the same, we're all on the same page here. And here's what you do. First, we're going to put it on single pass lossless and just encode it that way. See if it works. Again, check with Media Info. It's a very useful tool. See if your bitrate is okay. It might not be high enough. So here's what we're going to do. Go to rate control, and we're going to change this min and max IDR frame interval. I'm going to set it as low as 1 if you have a still image. We'll just start there. Encode the video. Again, check with Media Info and see if it's too big, because it's probably going to make it now, but it might be like 3,000 kilobits a second, and you're like, hey, that's too big. So you just kind of have to play around with it and then raise that number from 1 to whatever you find works best for you. Make sure you're over the bitrate requirement, but you don't want it so big that it's going to take forever to upload either, so you kind of have to play with those settings, and hopefully that'll help you out. By the way, I would only recommend changing that stuff if you're doing single pass lossless, because you're not going to lose any quality. You're just going to make the file size bigger. But if you were using one of the other, first pass and the 2-pass encode or something like that, then it might actually end up being really blocky if you end up lowering that thing. So only do it if it's lossless. So hopefully that'll help you guys doing screen capture and whatnot. Again, thanks for watching, guys. We're now up to 2,000. Oh, I wish 2,000. No, 200 subscribers on the Derek for President channel. And thanks for helping me grow my army of brainwashed followers.